Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Phil's Corner. After a short break, we're back with the hot wall. So, welcome. We're doing a couple of hours this afternoon. We've got lots to catch up on, of course. Every time we come close to catching up on the latest releases, we fall back a couple of weeks, but we'll do our best in a couple of hours, trying to get as many football shirts as we can. But yeah, hope you're well, of course, as we always do here. Please chuck in any questions as we go through, anything about the shirts we're talking about, or anything else in the football shirt world. Do feel free to stick in a comment in the chat. I'll do my best to answer. But welcome everybody. And as we start, I'll just check. Yeah, we've got the link on Twitter. We'll do some housekeeping as well. Firstly, if you are new here, this is your first time, make sure you subscribe. Being a subscriber helps grow the channel, and there's big things happening this year. As I've talked about for months and months, we're going to be back in Phil's Corner proper soon. Not just this room in my house, but we'll be in a fully renovated, fully new look corner. Hey Tom, no worries at all. Saying sorry for missing the last few streams. Not a problem at all, mate. Hope things are more settled, mate. Yeah, looking forward to hanging out this afternoon. So with the new studio will come a new, more consistent content stream. Not only these streams, but the regular, longer form Phil's Corner videos will be back. There'll be other series as well. I've got some really, really cool plans for that. So that's coming, in a matter of weeks. It's been pretty, at least half a year, if not more, since we've been in the studio. But it'll be coming soon, and there'll be loads of good stuff. So being a subscriber, you find out when all the good stuff's happening first. And if you want to support me further, I'll switch over to my other scene. You can see details about my Patreons. So there's everyone's names on there who currently support me. If you want to support me further and get some exclusive content, including a free shirt, and incidentally, the latest Phil's Corner shirt is just around the corner, the new 2022 version. But you've got the shirt, you've got the magazine as well, which is part of your support. There's other benefits too. So that is my Patreon. Apologies, nearly just started the intro again. Amzar, hello, my friend. Hello, welcome. So yeah, subscribe, be a patron if you want to support me further. But yeah, let's get to ranking some shirts. That's why we're here. That is what we're doing. As we start as well, Amzar asks thoughts on the Elite Arsenal kit. Is that the away, Amzar? Because if so, and I'll just switch over to there we go. If so, Amzar, broadly speaking, I think it's going to be very popular. When you think about black and gold as a trend, it's obviously been it's been popular for a reason, and that is simply because I think it's going to appeal to a wide audience, not just Arsenal fans. So I'm expecting it to be one of the most popular shirts of next season. On a personal note, I do like the shirt, and I do like the graphic. I think the graphic looks really nice. So yeah, I think it will be decent. But looking forward to seeing more pictures, that's for sure. Anything Music, hello, welcome to the stream. So guys, this is the hot wall. This is the giant tier list where we're ranking shirts. We started at literally anything released in 2022. So different leagues, different regular home shirts, special edition shirts, everything in between. So there's some that have actually been more which would be considered this season's shirts, things like the Napoli Maradona shirt, which is currently falling off the bottom end of the tier list. But broadly speaking, the hottest shirts, my favourite shirts, are on this right side. And you can see only 4 shirts in this tier. It gets very crowded in the lower tier. So you've got the Volcano tier, that's our top tier. The Flames tier, that's our second tier. These are good shirts, ones I'd like to collect. The Candle tier are shirts which have potential, but maybe aren't to my taste for various reasons. And there's the Ice Cube tier, which is the shirts I wouldn't recommend to collect it. Anything Music's in, that's a lot of shirts. It is a lot of shirts. And we're only just getting started. I mean, what is it? It's April now. The main release window for European clubs hasn't even started. So I think, I'm hoping I could continue this in a way that we don't actually have to grow the size of this list, but we'll see. It might get too congested. Anyway, I need to find out where we left off last time. So I'm going to I don't think we've done the Colo away. Again, I'm just looking through. Have we done Halifax Wanderers? And it's been a couple of weeks. So we've definitely done Halifax Wanderers. I don't think we've done the Denmark shirt though, have we? So I think that's where we're going to pick it up. This is a shirt which I myself was privileged to get hold of. The Denmark BLS Hafnia shirt. So it's sort of a collaboration on the international stage, which you don't see all that often. The BLS Hafnia, who are a fashion brand in Denmark. This is a very, very good shirt. Now, of course, I'm a big Hummel advocate. I do some work with them, so I'm very biased in this regard. This was also worn in a game, which I think is always important for these kind of shirts. The pattern, it has a very kind of Louis Vuitton look in the style, and that's one of the first things that it reminded me of. So it has that kind of high-end aesthetic, but it's really nicely done as a subtle pattern, which you don't see on a lot of the pictures, but when you see it up close, you do get that effect. And honestly, guys, I really, really like this. In fact, I like this so much, I think we're looking at maybe even starting straight away with a Volcano t-shirt. I don't know what you guys think. When I think about this shirt, there's a few, maybe 1 or 2 things I'd like, I'd like for it to be the main away shirt that we'd see it more. But yeah, just straight up, I think this is just one of my favourite releases this season. I love the pattern, the line pattern. It feels like a nice contrast to the relatively simple body, but the pattern again is really it's a really tasty shirt. Tasteful, tasty, both of those things. And yeah, when I look at it here, I just think this is, I liked it so much. I knew I had to buy it when it was released, and it was instantly quite a reasonable price as well. Not the easiest to get hold of in Denmark, but a friend in Denmark was able to pick it up for me. And seeing it in person, I'm very happy to put this straight in here. This is one I'd recommend picking up. John Carr says the middle is too plain to be Volcano. I hear what you're saying, John Carr. I actually think this is the right level of... I think there's a fine line between overly simple and clean. People use the word clean a lot, but I do think this is a good example. Other things to note. International shirts are typically a bit plainer as well, but I think this is the right sort of level for me. It goes on the sleeves. I think that's really important. And I think there's enough here for me. So this is one of my favourite shirts this season. I mean, genuinely, and I've stuck it straight in the Volcano tier. That's how we're starting today's Hot Wall stream. D for Life says scenes. Yeah, I mean, like anyone who's watched any previous streams will know, I don't put shirts in the Volcano tier lightly. I want the bar to be very high. And of course, personal taste is a big part of this. But yeah, this is just straight in there for me. Tom's 30 gets. Tom's summing up well. Hummel don't miss. And honestly, I don't think they do. Let's come back down to earth though. Let's continue. We've got a lot of shirts to get through today. Santos away. Santos shirts are typically quite nice. They have, of course, one of the recurring themes, if not the most famous recurring theme, is the black and white stripes that they have. I'm going to be honest though, I do not like this one. Now, I'm a big fan of Umbro, and I'm a big fan of Umbro's shirts in Brazil. It's the thing I harp on about all the time. A few things I just immediately don't like though. The word, see I'm not sure what the wording says here, but I'm not a big fan of that in the stripes. Striped shirts are very, very difficult to mix up year on year. But I just don't like the aesthetic. It looks a bit like a tacky anniversary shirt. Seeing all these words in the stripes, and small things. I know it shouldn't bother me, but the fact that crest doesn't align with the stripe, I assume it might do in other sizes, or maybe not. But that, and then there's more, guys. I don't like the collar, particularly the neckline. Again, necklines are so difficult. I'm not a big fan of this, despite I kind of like the retro aesthetic of the name set, and I actually don't hate having a block on the back. But yeah, it's just those. It just looks a bit. Yeah, I mean, even seeing that stitch in there, you see the stitching on the neckline. Looks a bit cheap to me. I'm actually, well, we started with the Volcano tier. This is going to go in the Ice Cube tier for me because I actually think this is a bad Santos shirt. And there's not many bad Santos shirts out there, but this is one of them. Just on the demo shirt, John Carl's saying, I admit to an extreme bias against white shirts. Is that because of all the MLS white shirts over the years, John Carl? Amazon saying a bit too simple, more like a template. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, this does have some bespoke elements, I believe, or at least I've not seen this exact construction and style many times, if at all, from Umbro this year. Incidentally, this looks really long as well, but that's something else we can talk about. Yeah, I think this is actually quite bad. I don't like it, and maybe in person I'd change my mind. Yeah, seeing that stitch in there, that's not a good look. And just the other thing, very quickly, I don't want to get too hung up on this. You know when you've got stripes like this and you've got words in the stripes, it throws off the colour of the black so much that just then ends up looking really mismatched. And it's possible, or maybe the base black, the stripe colour, is actually different to the collar. It could be a material thing, but seeing that in a different black, it looks like a different black, and I think it's probably because of the words. No, actually, no, it might just be no. It looks like a different color. I'll move on. Like I said, I hate white as a color. I hear you. Now, the home kit. Can the home kit fare better? I'm going to say immediately yes. Now, just quickly on the away. Sorry, I am getting a bit hung up on it. I did miss actually the nice inside neck detail, and you can see that here, and it does look really nice. A lot of words there, but I like that style. It looks really smart, and I actually really like this collar and neckline. Much better. Yes, the shirt is effectively a plain white shirt in terms of the body, and John Carl, this is one for you, mate. But the details work much better here. I love this jock tag detail. Got to make sure I say that right. And it complements the inside neck really well. It looks like, if not the same kind of elements, very similar elements. So yes, this is plain. This is effectively plain white, but I think this is sneakily quite good. I do really like what they've done with again, the neckline. I'm not always the biggest fan of these kind of little V's, but I think it works well with the flappy collar. I like that combo. It's not, just if it was much deeper, I'd be less keen. But I think looking at there, that's just about the right level. And again, I do like that collar. I like that it's all in white, and the detail comes through in the actual flappy panel there, with, I assume, a date of a trophy win or something like that. Suddenly I'm wading through a white hell. Indeed. No, I do actually really like this. I'm actually going to put this in the Flames tier. And again, lots of people, they'd look at this and they'd go, oh, it's just a plain white shirt. Actually, I think you do have to focus on details and construction. That's what separates a good shirt from a bad one. I think sometimes you don't need a pattern. And again, especially when you've got a home shirt, and you can see there's quite a few white shirts that I actually rate quite highly. I do think this isn't, it's probably on the lower end of the Flames tier, but I do actually quite like this. I'm going to shove it right there in the gap. John Cole also saying if you're going to put words in the straps, there needs to be more contrast. Yeah, I think that is a big part of the problem with the away shirt. So honestly, night and day for me. I actually really like this home shirt. The away, not so much. Now we go over to Sweden. Malmo have had some fun shirts over the years, but in recent years, I can't think of one that stood out particularly. Maybe I'm forgetting one, but this away shirt, I'm not excited by it, to be honest. Little things, I mean, it's very simple, and that again can work. But you see here, like the neckline and the cuffs, it's doing less for me than the previous shirt, that's for sure. The pinstripes are fine, but I'm not really big on the colour. And even though I like the Volkswagen sponsor, which has been simplified and is of course used on a number of different shirts across the world. But the crest, it's a very minimal, there's many, it's not kind of nice raised crest, which you'd like to see on something like this. And again, I can't see anything in the way of nice details. There is something on the back there, and I assume that flag and the colours are in reference to the regional flag. I don't know. But in short, I think this one actually is probably going to be, if not in the Ice Cube tier, in the lower end of the Cannel tier. I don't think there's really enough here to put it any higher. Pinstripes, they can work, but it just feels... I mean, I don't know if this is one of the Puma stock templates. Off the top of my head, I can't remember if Puma have this pinstripe style as one of their off-the-shelf designs. But even if it was bespoke, I think probably the reason I might consider it in the Cannel tier is that no, I'm going to have to put it in the bottom tier. The crest again looks very, very like. Maybe I'm not seeing the pictures here, but I would want to see something more than what looks like, if not sublimated, just a simple heat transfer. You need more for a shirt like this. I think I'll put it in the Cannel tier because looking at it again, honestly, the crest is my main gripe, and that is a bit of a small thing to be annoyed about. Amazon saying the sponsor looks nice. I completely agree, Amazon. I do think the Volkswagen sponsor is quite good. And again, I mean, you've seen some shirts on the higher tiers, some shirts from Canada, for example. It looks good in the flat style. I do actually think it looks good. I don't mind the Volkswagen rebrand. But we're going to stick it here. I think, again, when you look at... We talked about white shirts a lot already this episode. You can see here, I mean, there's the Arsenal shirt there, but it feels like in this kind of ballpark where you've got, white and black and a bit of red as a colour scheme. It has potential if done well. Honestly, I'd almost want to see it without the red though. I'm sure the red is part of the story behind the shirt. But I think some of the better white shirts are the ones with actually, it sounds funny, but fewer colours. So something like the Club Olympia shirt there looks great. Or you go down the route of something like a Seongnam City with iridescent applications, which just look better. So yeah, could do much better, Puma. Johnny saying, do you know if there's how much a collaboration between the sponsor and the shirt designer when kind of a new design? It's a great question, Johnny. In short, from my understanding, most of the time, the sponsor will have kind of certain restrictions, and that often means that the designer has very little to play with. I believe most of the time there might be a conversation, a back and forth, but unless you're looking at the very kind of top end contracts, most of the time I believe the designer is basically given a sponsor to work with rather than the designer having most to say, if that makes sense. I think usually the sponsor, and that's where you often see sponsors which are kind of just full color versions, and a lot of the sponsors you'll see are just literally the sponsor's logo. But the best shirts are often the ones which incorporate that better. And sometimes it's becoming more common for sponsors to change color. I've not done any full research, but from my kind of viewpoint, you do see more sponsors changing color as opposed to 5-10 years ago, which is good, generally speaking. You know, something like your shirts here where the sponsor's in a nice gold color. That's great, and you wouldn't always see that. That was a long-winded answer, but yeah. As I say, I think you're seeing it more, which is quite good. The home shirt from Malmo. Now, the funny thing is, and maybe it's just because we've got some better quality close-up pictures, you can see, you know, it's a simple kind of stitched, embroidered style. That looks good. It could be better, but that's good to see. And I don't, well, we didn't have that on the away, so that is an immediate plus point for the home. Now, this is quite simple. And again, we talked, I think something like the Santos shirt, which we reviewed just before, even though that was plain, had nicer details. The collar and neckline were much better. This, I think, is unfortunately too safe, even with the slightly better crest application. Very simple back neck detail, which is nice, but it's nothing special. So yeah, this one I think actually probably has to go in the Ice Cube tier. I think, and actually, I don't think this is much lower than the away. As I take this one out here, yeah, pretty middling, and this kind of sums up a lot of Malmo shirts over recent years. Again, I don't know. Sometimes you just see a team and they just feel like they're just going through the motions with the manufacturer. I'd want to see more. Malmo are quite a big club, often in Europe. You'd expect more, honestly. Even though it is even I don't know what. Like off the top of my head, I don't know what they could do, but they could do so much more. John Carl added to the discussion saying sponsor logos include specific colours in the copyright that constrains any changes. Yes, that is often the case. As I say, you do see some sponsors changing, and that I think is more common. At least anecdotally, I say that is more common. Now we stay in Sweden with Djurgårdens, and I don't know how you say their name. Apologies for my terrible pronunciation. The funny thing is, this is a similar kind of story of a relatively simple shirt. But there's more to like, and even if it is just the fact they've actually taken a few more shots to get the full appreciation of the shirts. I believe this is the home and the plain is the black. We start with the striped home. Despite being essentially an Adidas template, it's good to see, well, the team's identity of it being these colours, a striped shirt with these colours. It looks good here. It looks good. And I would say, despite the simplicity, for a striped home shirt, they could do a lot worse. They could do a lot worse than this. And I'm looking at things like the crest application, which is good, simple, but certainly better than the Malmo away we looked at. So it is relatively simple, and Amzar saying it's too safe. I'd agree that it is very safe. I think, though, I do like, despite how simple it is, I'm just looking again. I honestly don't mind that style of neckline. It's very simple, and it's been used on many shirts, but I don't mind that too much. And, you know, things like the thickness of the stripes I like in this template. So I'm going to put this in the candle tier, despite... Oh, I don't really want that image, actually. Let's go for something a bit clearer. Yeah. And even though this particular shirt doesn't have many bespoke elements, if at all, really, yeah, I think this is just about in the candle tier. Largely on the basis of the team's colours. I do think this kind of two-tone blue, which the team have had for many years, if not all their history, lends itself well to the template. So it is very simple, it is very safe. But I'm glad to see it nonetheless. Brock, thank you, mate. Yeah, last week I did, for the first time in my life, I had food poisoning. But thankfully, is that... Oh, yeah, no, I thought I recognised that guy, but I don't. Yeah, no, I'm all better. Thank you, Brock. Thank you. And I was able to get away with family. Thankfully, the food poisoning subsided in time to get away for a weekend in Cornwall. And Xiao, thank you as well. So nice to see you back from the food poisoning incident. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Yeah, it wasn't a fun few days. Was in a lot of pain, but it was nothing too major. Yeah, so thank you, my friend. We don't need to tell how many times Sorry, we don't need. You don't need to tell me how many times you may have seen the Spanish 2016 away kit. Oh, brilliant, brilliant. I appreciate that, yeah. Yeah. So anyway, this and I haven't talked about the away. I think this one just has to get in the ISQ tier. It is, even though these are both stock templates, the home just has more about it, even if it is just a striped template. This one, without that, honestly, I'd probably want to see it with all the sponsors on it as well. I think that would help. But yeah, nothing too much to say. We come to Young Boys though, and this shirt is very interesting. Young Boys, who have had some sneakily good shirts from Nike, they don't tend to have the craziest shirts, but I do really like the numbers here, and that's the biggest thing to say. And this looks, I assume this is a shirt. Yeah, so it's been dubbed the YB for Everyone shirt. So a shirt talking about anti-discrimination, and I think this, we talked about pinstripes before. It's a simple idea, but well executed. You've got the rainbow colours there, and I do really like this shirt in comparison to something like the Malmo shirt. It immediately tells more of a story. Now, things to look at as well. I don't know what this internet detail is. That's interesting. I feel like that could be a lot better. And yeah, but in short, black and yellow as a base essentially is a good combo. You'd like to see the pinstripes on the back, but this is actually pretty smart. Again, we're not reviewing the numbers in and of themselves, but I think we should point that out. I do like that style. It has this kind of slightly hand-drawn effect, but I like that. Yeah, I think this is pretty smart. I think, honestly, you're starting already with black and yellow, which is a good combo. And I'm kind of glad to see that still coming through. You've got the rainbow elements, but it feels like the club have done that, have handled this quite well with the combination of their club colours and the rainbow colours. So, in short, I think this is actually pretty hot. You know, we've looked at a few shirts that have had similar kind of diversity messages, and often they do work well. It's easy to go too tacky, but I think this is actually quite tasteful. And in the genre, they've actually done really well. So it feels like a Young Boy shirt with those elements quite nicely done. So I'm happy to put this one in the hot tier. I do really like those numbers as well. I do really like them. We're not reviewing the numbers, but low to medium 5 for me, higher with the numbers. Yeah, I'd agree, John Carl and Amzas. I love the design of numbers. It's just, you know, sometimes I don't know the full story, but it feels like there's clearly something going on there, and it's easy for numbers to feel quite stale. There's been so many that it's hard to kind of innovate or do something new. It looks really good. There's a real playfulness to that, and I like it. So we picked up a little bit there at the end. 6 pages. We probably will get through most of this, I reckon. Some good shirts on this page as well. Let's continue. Colo Colo. I'm a big fan of Colo Colo. They've had some really, really good shirts over the years. Tend to be relatively simple, Of course, they have a great crest though, which helps. Now this one, if we remind ourselves of the home shirt, that one actually ended up in the high end of the counter tier, and I think this might just be a reverse on the colours. Looking at it there again, the problem with this tier list is you do get very pixelated shirts at this level of zoom, but you can see there, I think we're looking at a reverse of the home, which is quite a novelty in and of itself. And interesting to see the sponsor recoloured in white. I actually think I probably prefer the home, and again, even though it's the same template, I think I prefer the white base to the black. I'm not sure exactly why. I can't really put my finger on it. But even though I like black shirts, I mean that backnet detail is very simple, almost too simple. I think with a shirt like this, you do need things like nice details to elevate it, and this is kind of lacking them, unfortunately. Even though I don't mind the template, I didn't, again, with the home shirt, ranking that in the high-end counter tier, honestly, that was a similar story where when you've got a template, you need things like details, you need something, a story, and it doesn't have to be a crazy pattern. But when you don't have much to kind of hang your hat on, unless you've got a really standout colorway or other details, you're often just trailing behind. So I think this is a similar one to the home. Yes, it is essentially the same template, but I think the home just works a bit better for me. Lewis, thank you, my friend. I hope you're well too, mate. The sponsor does the job, says Amzar. Yeah, actually, the sponsor isn't bad. It has been recolored, but I think it actually kind of worked. It popped nicely in the red, even though it was a different red to the crest. But anyway, that's the Colo Colo way. We go to Sampaio Correia, a team I've never heard of, I must be honest. So they're from Brazil. And the brand's Super Bowler. Is that the one? I think that we've seen them a few times in South America. If we start with I assume this is the home. Bright colour combination. And this is a tricky set of colours to pull off. It reminds me of many the colourway, it could be a number of African flags, have these bright red, yellow and green combos. Looking at it, honestly, it's actually, I think it's grown on me, and that's it feels like a bit, not a huge fan of this style of neckline. Again, a neckline so difficult to get right, and this is missing a bit of finesse, which you'd expect to see from bigger brands, but given Super Bowl being a bit of a smaller brand, I honestly don't mind the simplicity of this one. I think I'd probably want to see smaller stripes, though. I'd like to see this rather than this kind of chunky stripes. But it is memorable, and yeah, I think it's not far off being a much better shirt. It's certainly got a combination which feels, yeah, it does stand out. John Carl suggesting flames. It shouldn't work, but it does. I think that's a fair way to put it. It shouldn't really work, but I do like the combo. Now I'm going to hold it off. I'm going to stick it in the counter tier and say it's more of a case of potential that's not quite fully realised. But that's not to take away from what is quite good about the shirt. I do think there are nice elements. I think fair play to commit to the colours and the away as well. If you look at that now, of course you've got the sash. Sashes are always popular, and for good reason. And I think it's a similar story to the home. I don't really like, I must say, on the collar, you see how this red section here, it clashes a bit with the red of the sash, and I'm not as keen on it. I think it looks at the same construction as the home. For whatever reason, despite looking at it again, you can see the relatively low quality stitching, or the fact the stitching is showing. Not a big fan of that. Yeah, in short, I think I actually prefer the home, or it's very close. but it's still in the candle tier. I still think this is actually pretty solid, and you know, it's not often I'm big on some of these kind of lowly Brazilian sides. It's, you know, a lot of the ice cube tier is populated with these types of shirts. But fair play to Superpolar. I think these shirts aren't bad at all. The sash saves the shirt, says John Cohen. I think that's fair. I do think the sash is a nice look. As a home and away combo, I think you could do a lot worse. But yeah, I'm going to stick it just behind the home. Looking again, that's the flag of Bolivia, isn't it? Or the colours of the flag of Bolivia. It's interesting to see those colours so bright on the shirt. And you can see a jot tag detail there. A bit busy, a bit clunky, but it's nice to see some bespoke detailing. Interesting. I'd like to see more of this team, honestly. That's definitely... certainly put them on the map. Club Junior. And these guys are from, I can't remember where, Colombia. Okay, here we go. Colombian team. Very interesting to see how they've packed in the sponsors to this one, isn't it? And I think if you look at, again, South American shirts often do have a lot of sponsors. It can kind of go either way. Sometimes there's a novelty factor. I actually kind of think, despite how it's just been plastered over as a big sticker, and they've got, I don't mind that primary sponsor. It does get a bit much when you've got the side sponsors there in a much less appealing, visually appealing logo, and you've also got a detail here. But there is actually kind of a novelty factor for me. However, looking beneath that, it's not the worst Adidas template. It's an interesting one where you've got these kind of thicker stripes here and then the thinner stripes in the middle. I've not seen this too much around other teams to hate this. Amzar, thank you for stopping by, my friend. Thank you. Hopefully see you around. Yeah, so actually, I mean, looking again, getting a nice close-up, I don't mind that template. Crest is very simple, but you know, it could just be sublimated, so it's good that it's, at the very least, again, I'm just trying to get a good look at that. Looks like a simple patch, but it's better than a simple transfer. Honestly, I actually think this is in the candle tier, despite how mad it is and how crazy it is with the sponsors. I'm not going to get carried away. I don't think this is anything higher than a kind of low to mid candle. But I think almost I actually kind of like the sponsor, despite it being plastered over. And again, controversial, I'm sure. I think it's because the colours match again quite well. You've got the blue, which, if not an exact match, is a close match to the crest. And the flame, I think it has a novelty factor. Yes, there's too much going on the sides. But again, I think you can get away with it with South American shirts. I actually often enjoy that kind of madness with the sponsors. I think it can often add, if nothing else, something quite intriguing, and often compared to the relatively clean-cut European shirts you see, I think it can often add, yeah, certainly a novelty factor, as we say. And we can't really get a good look on the away. Same template, same design, in different colours, and it's a similar story. If anything, I think I prefer the home. The black and the grey has potential, but doesn't really. I think the home just looks. It's got that. It feels a bit more South American, a bit madder. The away is a nice, more subtle approach, but by contrast, I think you lose some of that novelty factor. And the funny thing is, they've incorporated the sponsors quite well. You know, being almost all in white on the away, so that's good. They've actually paid attention there. And John Cole, an interesting point, which I think is fair, saying I love that they strategically place the sponsors instead of slapping them over, and that I'd agree. You've got, you know, looking on things like the, well, not only the main sponsor but some of the others, they do fit, you know, relatively neatly over the stripes. If that was smaller, I actually think it would look a lot worse. The fact it's wide enough to go over those stripes, I think actually adds quite a bit. So this one is also going to go, I'm just going to tidy that up a bit. Yeah, also in the canal tier. Just below the home for me. But there's certainly elements which I like, despite you might look at this initially and just go, oh, it's just a crazy Colombian club shirt. Yeah, I think there's actually nice elements. We'll break up the white monopoly here with a black shirt. Yeah, that is Club Junior. Richmond Kickers. Now, are these the guys that Jamie Vardy has part ownership in? I might be wrong. A couple of well, this is kind of peak Adidas in America. Very, very simple Adidas templates. I do actually quite like the home, and again, even though it is simple, I kind of like this sponsor. I don't know who U-Crops are, but it has a kind of old school American feel to it. The logo, honestly, I'd like it to be a bit bigger, and I think that could be a lot more exciting. But despite being just a simple template, I do like that shade of green, and I really like that sponsor. I think it probably looked better. I was going to say on a white base with a green sponsor or another colour sponsor, but I quite like that. Just the typeface of the sponsor. Yeah, it needs something to go to the second gear. Some sort of detail, maybe a jot tag detail or a back neck detail. Vardy. Oh, sorry. Rochester. Thank you, Jonko. You're spot on. So ignore my comment about Vardy there. But yeah, looking at Richard Kickers, I think this is honestly a canal t-shirt, despite being just a template. The biggest thing is that shady green for me is really nice, and I do like that sponsor. And the crest as well. It feels a bit small, but I mean we've seen much worse. If we look back, and I hate to mention Hummel in a negative light, but some of the Hummel shirts you've seen from lower league American teams, or non-MLS teams I should say, have had really odd kind of sized and placed crests which look really small, and there's some examples here. But yeah, this one, despite its simplicity, I quite like. I'm not as big on the away, and I do like that you've got, I mean, a little bit more colour. Again, and the sponsor is actually a strength. I don't know who U-Crops are. Let's have a look. U-Crops Food Group. I was going to say it had that kind of feel to it. Yeah, I really like that. There's that logo. It has a nostalgic vibe to it. So honestly, I'd love to. Really, the club could go way more retro, and I think they could lead on that aesthetic. Obviously, you don't want the sponsor to determine that solely, but I think with a name like Richmond Kickers, you could definitely see something quite retro there working quite well. And this is interesting. Brock, Richmond is the longest running professional club in the US. I didn't know that. So that feels even more at home. Again, there is just a nostalgia to it. To everything from the team name and crest to the sponsor. So I think as much as they're able to, it would be great to see them lean into that in future years. There's a lot of potential. And even though both their shirts are sticking with the canons here, there's a base to work with, which I think could be really, really exciting. So yeah, more to come, I would expect. The goalkeeper shirt. Incidentally, we're going to skip goalkeeper shirts. A couple of episodes ago, I'd mentioned, and I couldn't remember if we were doing goalkeeper shirts. I believe we're not. I'm also going to pop to the bathroom, so I'm just going to find out my poor scene, and we'll be right back, guys. Incidentally, I'm also wearing a couple of deliveries, so if I do suddenly pause or rush off, that's probably why. Now we come to Inverness Caledonian Thistle, a club who have had some interesting shirts. I'll be honest, my first impression isn't great though. We talked about words as a kind of subliminal detail. I'm not feeling this one at all. I think in a different sense, having them a little bit spaced out there, I don't mind. I don't. It's hard to get right. I think having these kind of patterns. I was going to say I don't mind if it's almost either more subliminal or more intricate and more detailed. I think this would work. But seeing this one here, I'm not. I'm not a big fan. On top of that, the crest and the manufacturer logo feel very wide. It's hard. I can see it's good in the sense that they've aligned them here, but it just feels too wide, and it's a terrible sponsor logo. Complete polar opposite to something like the U-Crop sponsor, which I think looked a lot better. This is bad. I don't think the contrast crewneck or cuffs do this one much favours either. So I think this is actually, I think even without the words, I'd be struggling here. But seeing how the words in the shirt, honestly, guys, this is just a straight ice cube for me. Yeah, and the colours. I mean, they're the club colours, so I don't want to hate on them too much, but certainly less exciting than a lot of the colourways you will see. This is one I would just simply walk past and not bother with. It's gonna Puma, several vomiting emojis. I think, yeah, Puma are actually in a bit of a rut at the moment. Generally speaking, that's not to say there aren't good Puma shirts. But, you know, if we look at, well, we ranked a Puma shirt in the Volcano tier, New Mexico United. But that is kind of the exception to the rule this year. I'm just having a look through, and again, just reviewing where we're at with the Hot Wall at the moment. There's not much. There is the other New Mexico shirt there. And the San Antonio. I think that was Puma. So there are some, but generally speaking, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Which hasn't been as good. And John Carson, even though it's not a shirt that will go on you, it certainly won't go on me. Rosenborg. Back in Scandinavia, we're in Norway this time. Now, Rosenborg have had some great shirts over the years. And they've had some really good ones with Adidas. If we look at both these shirts, we'll start with the white, which I think is the home. I might be wrong. I quite like the impression of this shirt. Despite the multiple sponsors, they're incorporated in the same colour. And I think this choice of Adidas template is quite smart. Yes, it is just a standard template. I don't believe this is bespoke to the team, but I kind of like. It's not one I've seen a lot, and maybe this is actually more bespoke than I give it credit for. I don't think it is, but seeing the contrast black panels there, it kind of adds something. You know, it would be very easy to not have that, and I think without those panels there, it wouldn't look as good. But it has this kind of noughties feel about it. And yeah, there's a lot of sponsors, but I do actually quite like the fact they've coloured it quite well. And you know, looking at the home compared to the away, I'm not as keen on this design. The V, it has potential, but you see here, not having the contrasting panels on the sleeves or the shoulder, the collarbone, it looks much better on the home. So this shirt, I really like it. I really like the choice to have it's largely because of this black section here, the contrasting black panel, but I think it adds a lot, and they've incorporated the sponsors. Yes, it's busy, but there is a novelty factor, and I think this is the right side of novelty for me. Incidentally, I prefer the women's shirt sponsor there. It's a bit more, even though it's a bit more obtrusive. I quite like the look of that. But yeah, this is, honestly, I think compares favourably to other similar shirts. And maybe if we start seeing several teams having this kind of contrasting style, I'll be less warm to it. But for now, I'm happy to put this in the Flames tier. And I think, again, there's been a few. It reminds me a bit of the San Jose earthquake shirt, which again was quite simple, but when you saw it at certain angles, the monochrome look, the white and black look, that was actually kind of a grey look, but it actually looked quite good. And I think I'm happy to put this one, despite being a template, in the Flames tier. I think we're back. Apologies, that was a fairly major outage on my side. I think we're back. If we are, please let me know. Once again, apologies for that outage. We're back, working now. Thank you guys. Thank you, Bart. Thank you, John Carl. Yeah, that one, I just literally had to reset my internet there. We will continue. Yeah, apologies for that stop in play. Don't know what happened there. I'm having a few problems. Once I've got my studio back, I will be back to a wired connection. It's coming, guys. It's literally going to have been not far off a year, isn't it, by the time I'm actually back in the studio, but it will bring with it many benefits to the content. So yeah, just quickly on the Rosenborg. I like this one less than the home. Yeah, there are elements which are quite nice, but I'm gonna stick this one in the Canal tier. Yeah, we need to see a bit more from some of these Scandinavian teams. That's for sure. Just quickly, I'm just going to make sure we catch up on my second screen. That's not working there. There we go. Right, let's continue. Making good progress. We're going to be here for another hour, so we will get close to caught up. Now this is cool. This Bari shirt got a lot of love, a lot of attention. And I believe they wore it in a game. Am I right in saying that? But now I'm saying that, I can't remember for sure. I'm just double checking the press release here. Because obviously, if this wasn't worn in a game, I think we will avoid ranking it. But I think this was worn in a game. Now I'm going to rank it as if it was, but I will check this out later. Two pre-match shirts and an Accra green goalkeeper shirt. Okay, no, I think this was one in the game. The first thought when I saw the shirt was that it was paisley, but it turns out it's actually an octopus pattern, and that is pretty crazy. You can see it in the goalkeeper shirt even more. An incredible design. We're not ranking the goalkeeper shirt. It looks very much like a lifestyle shirt that's heavily retro. But the fact, you've got that on top of other elements like the crest, which is amazing, this kind of simplified cockerel, which looks great. The fact the pattern is throughout all these stripes here is excellent. You've got the Kappa taping with the repeated Kappa logos. It was also limited, which is good to see, and something which you don't always see. But yeah, it's funny, this looks very much like a lifestyle piece, but the fact it was worn in the game, I think this is close to Volcano tier, and the reason I'm not really feeling it for the Volcano tier, it's things like, I don't love this detail here. It's good to have something in there, but I feel like you could have a much more interesting or more stylized detail. And the neckline is a very unusual kind of boxy look, but I'm not the biggest fan of that. But in short, I do think this collection is amazing. The aesthetic of the release photos is so good. So ranking the shirt, it's on the higher end of the Flames tier for me. It's certainly a creative design. It feels very, very 90s in a good way. And it's not often, we've seen a lot of course, many shirts reference the 90s. And it's easy for it to feel quite stale, you know, oh, there's another 90s shirt. But I think this blends some really nice ideas well together really well. And yeah, I'm happy to say this is one of the better shirts we've seen. Not quite Volcano tier for me. I think it's more of a personal taste thing, but I'd like to see a bit. Yeah, that detail feels a bit cheap or a bit kind of an afterthought. And similarly, the neckline could be a lot better. So yeah, in short, pretty strong. John Carlson looks better in the player photo. I would agree. It does look much better. Yeah, it does look much better there, to be fair. No, really good. I'm happy. It's so close. I'm going to nudge it as high as we can. But it's not quite Volcano tier in my eyes. Maybe if I saw it in long sleeves, I'd be convinced. We come to St. Pauli, club who are famous for shirts. And this one has already, I can't speak German, but I assume this is an anti-racism shirt. Kein Platz für Rassismus. No place for racism. So a good message. You can see the primary sponsor there, Kongstar, have just about stuck around, which is quite funny. But I do really like the impact of that sponsor. I think it's fair to say, and I've seen a few sponsors like this, where you've got quite a notable looking sponsor. Other key detail here is this kind of iridescent style crest, very much on trend. Looking at it, I don't think it actually is iridescent. I think it just has the iridescent effect. But we're not gonna. That's not a bad thing. I still think it looks quite visually nice. So some really good stuff here. I think the base of the shirt, the grey and the black kind of gradient, isn't my favourite look, but you can see it looks decent in the pictures. I think, honestly, this one, the main thing I think is the neckline feels like an afterthought. I'd rather that was either grey, I think, or had some sort of more... I think it could match the aesthetic of the shirt better. No, in short, I quite like a lot of this from DIY. This is the in-house brand. And I've not been overly keen on many of their early designs, but this is one of the better ones. And again, it's tricky to get the kind of in this genre. It can easily go one or two ways when you're trying to tell a message like this. I quite like that they've kept elements of this. Really the impact of the message of the sponsor is the key talking point here. No place for racism, St. Pauli sponsor. Yeah, there's been a few. St. Pauli have had some really good examples of this of course, in their history. That's one of the big things about the club. Is this as good as some of the other ones we've seen? I think it, honestly, they've had better. But, it's married elements, which are very much on trend. The iridescent style crest. And the grey colour feels quite fresh, even though, it has a bit of a keeper kit feel to it. So as I've been talking, I've been kind of ranking it in my head. I think I'm going to put it in the candle tier. Aesthetically, I prefer something like the Young Boys shirt, but that's not to take away from the design too much. I think this is close to the Flames tier. Brock saying, what's the worst shirt on your Hot Wheels so far? How does it compare to the Cabas of Colorado? Give you the other shirts that's bad. That are so bad that they go. So the worst shirt we've ranked so far, Brock, was the Napoli Maradona red version, and much could be said about that. But yeah, incredibly tacky. Not least because you've seen other similar, the same design in different colourways. To have the red one felt very unnecessary, which you could of course say for many of the Napoli shirts. It's not as bad as the Cadbury's one though. That is a historically bad one. Well, the thing is though, that one is so bad that it is kind of funny. But we'll leave that there. We come to AIK now. Now AIK have already featured on the Hot Wheel with their special edition shirt, which Wasn't my favourite special edition shirt they've had, but it was still very, very interesting. The Nike logo was notable in that one. And the map gimmick wasn't for me, but broadly speaking, it had a lot of nice elements. And the fact it came in that ridiculous box as well was a fun bonus. The away has elements which I quite like, and we've talked about white shirts or white bases. When you've got contrasting black elements, it can work. It can work despite its simplicity. And this also seems to have a bit of a jock tag detail going on there. We can't get a good look at it, but that's good to see. And I like horizontal bands of colour. Anyone who's seen many of my videos before will know I like this kind of theme. It sounds silly or sounds obvious or simple, but I like a lot of shirts which have some sort of colour running across the middle. A couple of colours can look good too. The kind of Sampdoria look or Boca Juniors, teams like this often have really nice shirts. So I like that theme. And just on the shirt as well, I quite like the look of that collar. It looks maybe a bit big or a little bit deep, but this and an area of the shirt which is so easy to get wrong. So often a shirt will end up in these bottom two tiers because the neckline looks a bit naff. I think it's on like the Macron shirt here, and there's other ones as well, you know, which I just haven't rated, and the neckline's been a big part of that. This actually I think is quite nice. So despite, yeah, we haven't. I'd love to see a better look of some of these details, but you've got really, really good elements. Of course, the colours on the crest look great, but I just think this is actually sneakily quite nice. I mean, it's going to be the second AAK shirt in the Flames tier, that's for sure. That's how much I rate this one. I'm going to put it, you know, it reminds me of the Olympia shirt. Similar kind of theme with a horizontal band. That one had a particularly good inside neck detail. And actually thinking about it, I would take the Olympia shirt over the AAK shirt, but I'm still happy to put this one close behind. Just the choice of colours, again, some clubs are just blessed with good colourways, aren't they? But I do like the contrast of that yellow. It really pops. And you've got the Nike swoosh and the crest sitting above it. Nice placement. Yes, you've got a few sponsors, but they are incorporated well. And I do, again, the more I look at that neckline, the more I think it actually looks quite nice. So that's good. You'd like to see maybe the yellow go on the back, although that would be a bit of a conflict. Not bad though. And we've seen a few Scandinavian kits. That's probably the best one we've seen from today's showing. We've seen, you know, shirts from Sweden and Norway and Denmark. I mean, not counting the Denmark shirt, that was also in the Volcano tier. So that's the best shirt from Scandinavia today. But some good stuff there. Yeah, picking up a little bit. Let's continue with the home shirt. Now, compared to the away, I'm less excited by this. Black and yellow is a good combo. We looked at it previously and talked about it with the Young Boys shirt. This one, it seems to be the same construction as the away, but I'm less excited. I think it looked better with the kind of full contrast collar in this style. This isn't much worse in my eyes, but I think I prefer the away had more impact. The combo is good. Interesting that the stadium sponsor has been left in white as opposed to the other sponsors being in yellow. It probably would look better in yellow there. I'm going to take too many marks off for that though. But I think I just prefer the look of the away. I think this is still quite smart, and even though it's relatively plain, when you've got a crest as good as that and a colourway as good as this, it always helps. You're always starting on the right foot. So, this one, I'm debating whether to put it in the hot tier. I think I'll put it in the counter tier, despite what I do like about it. I think, though, if we had a few more shots of the details, I'd be able to judge this one a bit more. Because, you know, if that's just a simple little, you know, like a sticker style, which a lot of these shirts have, if that's just a simple little sticker, It's not as good, but if it's got a bit of detail, a bit of quality to it, a bit of kind of a raised feature, that can easily be quite positive. And there's been some good details. It's an area of the shirt which is easy to, can really elevate a design. So this one, I'm going to put it on the high end of the, you know what, maybe even sneak it down here. Yeah, let's sneak it just by the logo. Why not? We're going to have to use up as much real estate as we can, although it does break out the bottom. But that's okay. We'll allow that. That's okay. Nice combo. And of course, across the special edition and the home and away, 2 in the Flames tier, 1 in the high end of the Canal tier. John Carr saying, looks like Columbus Crew away, not in a good way. Columbus Crew, yeah, they've certainly had, well, they've had their ups and downs. Black and yellow, I think, is a good combo, but it's also, yeah, we a bit like a lot of Columbus Crew shirts. There could be much more to it. Now we come to Forward Madison, a team recently featured on my show with Hummel behind the chevrons. And when we were talking on that show, we looked particularly at some of the reversible shirt, which I really rate, as well as the classic drip kit. Honestly, this one is a bit middling for me though. Now, half and half shirts, they have their fans. I'm not the biggest fan. I think looking at it here, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of this look. Despite, I can kind of appreciate the fact that you've got a pink and white is an unusual color combo. It's not something you see a lot. There is a novelty factor there, and of course, for Madison, their shirts are famous for being quite crazy. This one is a bit more on the softer end of the spectrum. But I'm not excited by this one. And I think it might be more just that I'm not the biggest half and half guy. But looking at the shirt there, I don't think, honestly, I mean, like a lot of Full Madison shirts, you'd want to see a chunkier crest. It's sublimated, which is fine, but on a shirt like this, it's really particularly missing, you know, those raised details. Same with the Hummel logo. That is just, unfortunately, for whatever reason, a big part of Hummel's American offering is more simple. So I'm not that big on this, but then, having said that, maybe there is an element where they've been so popular that sometimes actually some of the more underrated shirts can fly under the radar. And maybe, you know, if this was another team, you'd be ranking it a bit more highly. John Carl said, Full Madison, I'm waiting for this one. This is Volcano for me. So I'm not as big on this one. You can tell just by the way I'm talking about it that I'm not personally considering this a Volcano tier. But I think looking at this one here, I think, yeah, more for personal reasons than anything else, or personal kind of aesthetic preferences, I'm going to put this one in the Canal tier. So a bit of a drop off from John Carl's estimation, but yeah, I'm happy to kind of say this is there's an idea here, but yeah, I don't know. I think the half and half, it's not doing it for me. I think it does compare. I mean, we've found, without meaning to, I've found another half and half shirt there in the Northampton anniversary, and I think, you know, it's a similar. I mean, there's another half. Is it maybe just half and half shirts? I'm struggling to rank them higher than the high Canal tier. So you can see my bias and my prediction of the hot wall. But yeah, honestly, I do. Yeah, Full Madison kits are great. They've had so many good ones over the years, but this one just isn't doing it for me. Yeah, but I would love to hear your thoughts. John Carl says it's Volcano, which, yeah, not feeling it. I'm not feeling it, John Carl, but certainly, again, Hummel, they've done some good stuff. This one just isn't to my taste. We go to Atletico Union now. An interesting shirt from Kappa. Now we're looking at Argentina here. The shirt, I mean, fair play. They've tried to incorporate the sponsors. It's interesting that there's kind of a darker shade of red. I don't hate that, and it does help with the visibility. I'm not sure about what's going on with the Kappa logo there. What colour that is, and I'm trying to get a good look here as we cycle through the different pictures. It looks almost like it's a sort of a brown, or like an off-red kind of look. So actually, looking at this, I actually quite like the no-nonsense collar. The simple crew neck, the way that's white and kind of blends in, honestly, I don't mind. You've kind of got what looks like raglan sleeves, or at the very least kind of the solid white sleeves. The overall impact isn't bad, honestly. Crest is a bit simple, but not, I think it is at least, I might be wrong, maybe it is just sublimated. Hard to tell on some of these pictures. But yeah, so I'm unsure the colour choices of the things like the Kappa logo and the sponsors. I'd like to see different approaches there. Cuffs I could take or leave, but I do actually think that the simple neckline works. It's a little bit loose on some of the players, but yeah, I mean, all this is to say it's probably still in the candle tier. So it's a lot of words for yeah, for a share which I'm sort of not overly excited by, but I think it's actually a higher kind of candle for me, and that's, you know, again, yeah, I think the overall impact of or the template or the construction for a striped shirt isn't bad at all. George said, "I'm currently working." Just so I say, well, I guess work is over and focus on this. Oh, I love it, George. I mean, yeah. Even though I should encourage you to get back to your work, I appreciate it, mate. I hope you're well, my friend. And John Carl on the format says disappointed but fair play. Yeah, honestly, that one, I think like a lot of shirts, I think if I was to look at that one a bit more, I'm just going to put that above. I don't want to get too bogged down in ordering shirts here, but I'm going to put that above there. Yeah, honestly, I think that's an example where. Oh, sorry, I don't want to copy that. Interesting. I've done something wrong there. We're going to leave it. Yeah, on the full medicine, I think honestly that one, yeah, it could easily fall into the flames tier. Let me know, guys, as well. At some point, maybe before the main release window kicks in, I've been thinking about doing some sort of like review, mid-season review. If that'd be of interest, let me know, and maybe I could have so many shirts that can move tiers up or down, or something like that. I don't want to change it wholesale, but I might do that at some point. Now we come to the Atletico Union away. We've just had the home. This one is an interesting colour combo. A sort of deep purple with what looks like an attempt at kind of luminous green details. You can get a good look at the crest there, which I assume was the same on the home. It's a nice contrast in the sense you've got the more classic home, the red and white striped home. This away, I'm not really digging the colour combo, if I'm honest. Maybe it's the fact you've got the full colour crest there, although that isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think, you know, sometimes there is, as much as I appreciate a recoloured crest, I don't think you always need to do that, but there is a clash there. And an interesting motif in the middle. It looks like it could be the club's crest history. But yeah, in short, interesting ideas, but I'm not like, it just doesn't look that nice as a package. Yeah, and I think in a similar way to the kind of words in stripes not being, yeah, in a similar way to the kind of subliminal words not always doing it for me. It's a similar thing with the crest there. I don't know if I just buffered for a second there. Apologies. Do let me know if you can still hear me, guys. Yeah. Robert saying rated Ipswich here. If Ipswich have released a shirt in the last few months, they should be. Well, it should have come up. So in short, no, I don't think I have, Robert. But if they have released one in the last few weeks, it'll be coming up. If not, of course, their 22, 23 kits will eventually come on this list. It's going to get very, very busy when the European shirts start coming out. Yeah, so this shirt, I think I'm going to put in the Ice Cube tier. It's a novel combo, and it is a nice contrast to the home, but it's just not doing it for me. John Cusson, I'll give this one an A for effort, but it doesn't say it from Ice Cube. Yeah, I do. There's effort has been made for sure. Yeah, but I'm not feeling it. And Robert saying no, sir, that was this season thing. I got you. Yeah, no. So this is basically every shirt that's been released in the calendar year. So there are some shirts from this season or the kind of back end of this season, but most of it will be new season stuff. And again, when we get to the kind of the English clubs and things like that, we're going to be seeing more shirts. Well, it's going to be mostly 2022-23 shirts. IFK Norrköping. These guys, yeah, also Swedish. Honestly, I think this is actually quite close to being really good. It's such a shame that you've got the subliminal crest, because this one would benefit from a nice, chunky, kind of plastic crest, even in its simplicity. With the sublimated crest, it has some nice elements. You know, you could compare it to something like the Rosenborg shirt, which I think in a similar way worked quite well, but this one isn't quite doing it for me. And I do really think this looks like some sort of anniversary crest. Is it 125 years? That could be so much better if that just had. And sometimes it's literally just a case that the team doesn't have the level of contract with the manufacturer to be able to do things like that. Also, the sponsors, yeah, they're not as aesthetically pleasing. Stadium, they've sponsored a few teams in and around Sweden. AOK have certainly been sponsored by them recently. But yeah, I'm less keen on the sponsors compared to some of the shirts. So this one, I think, it's a shame. I do think this actually could have been quite good, despite being a template. This kind of colour combo has so much potential. The white and the blue and this little kind of soft gold. But yeah, unfortunately, and again, the aesthetic of the crest I think is really, really smart. It just needs a bit more quality. But that kind of star thing, I kind of like it. I kind of like some of the details there. But anyway, this one I'm gonna stick in the candle tier. So it's not in the Ice Cube tier. I think there's enough of a base there to work with, but it's more the execution. And you know, there's a lot of white shirts on this list. This is just on this kind of, you know, this kind of level. Similar to the Malmo shirt. Probably a bit better than the Malmo shirt, but not by much. Yeah, and I mean, other things which, you know, hurt it. Being an Adidas shirt, it does feel like you've seen this same kind of base 100 times over, because you have seen this same base 100 times over. And it just needed a bit more to push it over the edge. Korea Sporting Club from the brand Vazal. Or Vajau, apologies for my pronunciation. Now, this one feels like a lot of the kind of lower end South American shirts from a brand which feels like a knockoff of other brands. I mean, certainly the neckline is one you've seen quite a lot. And, I mean, if we look at, there is a sense in which, despite its simplicity, the cuffs and the collar, it's not the worst aesthetic, but it certainly doesn't feel anything special to the team. And this one does, I think, just get lost in the pack. Now, there are some details it's worth pointing out, but nothing too exciting. And I think this one actually it just feels a little bit too, honestly, too bogged down by other similar shirts of this style. So as we're looking at it here, yeah, I'm trying to get a sense of the quality of the shirt as well. And this is often quite hard to gauge, where you've got Again, just looking at the execution of the sleeves, it just looks a bit naff. Yeah, this is an Ice Cube tier shirt. You know, we looked at Santos, and I mean, the funny thing is, I just cut this one out. But then I'm trying to remember where we put the Santos away. The home, I think the away was in the Ice Cube tier, wasn't it? Yeah, this one, in a different sense, falls into this tier. The quality, it lets it down, but that's, you know, more a case of it's a much smaller manufacturer. This doesn't have too many gimmicks, and that's a good thing, and that probably saves it from being on the lower end of the Ice Cube tier for me. I'm just trying to resize this appropriately. But yeah, so it probably ends up being on the sort of slightly higher end. The gold numbers, I don't hate that, but there's nothing special there. Yeah, just fairly forgettable shirt from Korea there. It just feels like a bad Santa shirt. Bang average stripe shirt, says John Carr. I think that's fair to say. And George said, what do you think of the Y3 Partnership Special Edition Real Madrid shirts? At least worth anything, more of a novelty item. So I quite like that they returned to working with Y3, given that we've already had, the collaboration shirt from about 10 years previous. And I think it was actually, I mean, we ranked the shirts, didn't we? I think. And actually, you know, I was saying before, wasn't I, about not ranking goalkeeper shirts, but we've got the goalkeeper shirt there. So actually, I'm going to hide that because, and if you guys see any other goalkeeper shirts on this list, do give me a shout. But yeah, so anyway, sorry, George. Back to your question. I ranked it in the counter tier, and I think that the pattern, despite being very simple, I kind of like the overall look. And things like the numbers were quite fun. But ultimately, these collaboration shirts, they're very expensive. The price point, the kind of cost to entry is very high. And I don't think it's one of the better shirts of the year. Despite the kind of novelty, I think it's quite nice, especially if you had or own the previous collaboration shirt. It's kind of nice to get another one like that. Like a lot of collaboration shirts as well, it very much feels like it was led by Y3. Y3, Yamamoto, is it? The guy... apologies if I've got his name wrong, but the designer seemed, from what I could tell from my quick research, to major on kind of black designs, and you can see that coming through in there. But if we look at something like this, I think this is a lot more interesting, honestly. And this is the Hoffenheim Africa kit. And there is when I first saw this, I was a bit confused, but reading about the story more, the team have some significant links in Africa, and proceeds of the shirt do go to some of the various charitable initiatives that Hoffenheim are already involved in. And, the fact that the pattern goes all the way around the back is absolutely fantastic. The design is a standout. It's not my favourite of this kind of genre. I think the colours, don't lend themselves as well as some other shirts of this style. But nonetheless, it is quite smart. And the fact that they've really committed to it, and there is actually a link, again, the team have been working in Africa. It's easy for this to feel a bit like a unnecessary kind of cash-in, but I do think this one is just about the right side of that divide. So yeah, again, just look at the colours. It's not the most aesthetically pleasing, I think, combo. The base and the orange, a lot of the details feel like they get missed. It doesn't, don't get me wrong, it doesn't need to be, not every shirt needs to be incredibly vibrant. There's something quite kind of muted about it, and I do like that. But I'm not thinking about this for the Volcano tier. It's not, I don't like it that much. But I think for what it's trying to do, it does it very well. And I'm very happy to put this one in the Flames tier. It's certainly a collectible shirt, and I think these were limited as well. I might be wrong, but I do think this does look pretty good, and we can stick it there in the Flames tier. Good work from Joma. Joma, a brand I'm often not too high on, but I think this is really good. I think it's really good for them. Things like the sizing of the pattern, it lends itself well. You've got the nice sponsor there in the middle, and the other elements, they fit well. Everything has been, as I say, the fact the pattern goes on the back is crucial, I think, to this one. Looks really good. Looks really good. Nice work. I've got a collaboration shirt, which I don't remember seeing before, with Yokohama F. Maunas. Bay Stars. I don't know who Bay Stars are. Marks is hand in hand with the Yokohama baseball team. Now, Yokohama F. Maunas, their home shirt was an outside contender for the Volcano tier. I was debating it at the time, and I really liked the callback to the 90s. Looking here at the this special edition shirt, it doesn't really feel like a special edition shirt. That I can see, it's tied in. Clearly, the baseball team has this kind of aesthetic, and in that sense, it's quite smart to see that in combination. But it doesn't feel particularly special. I think I'd like to see a bit more of the pink. And again, you can see the storytelling is good here. You can see it matches with the baseball look, and it's an unusual look. But I think, whereas on the home, the strength of it really came in that use of the red and the red, white and blue combination. This one feels like it's got a good base to work with, but it needs a bit more, I think. And you could have the pattern all the way on the back. It's annoying not to have it there. Yeah. I don't mind the look, and maybe if I had more of a connection with the baseball side of things, it would resonate more. As is, I think this one is going to be in the counter tier, and probably the lower end of the counter tier. Don't know what you guys think, but I think with a shirt like this, if it's already a special shirt, I think it just feels... maybe it's just they've been burdened too much by trying to look like the baseball jerseys, which themselves are the most exciting. I hate to say it. It feels almost quite kind of 90s or noughties, doesn't it? So maybe there is that nostalgic kind of vibe if you're into that. But I think it just looks a bit dated rather than a positive. It's not always a good thing to look like the 90s. So I'm going to stick that here. An interesting one though. I've certainly not seen much about it. Yeah, I do like these details. They're very simple, but they're on the home shirt as well. But I do like them. Yeah, needs something else. Needs something else for me. FC Tucson from the US. Now this Puma template, or this Puma pattern, has been used for other teams, I believe. I think I've seen this one before. Very interesting crest design. Almost looks like a little arrowhead, which I assume it is an arrowhead. I might be wrong. And just quickly on the Maunas shirt, John Carson, the special shirt should be special, which just misses. Indeed, that's my thoughts as well, mate. Yeah, this one, I think it needs... I don't know. So looking at the crest, that's a really interesting combination of colours. You've got the kind of light blue and the kind of the deep red and the off-white. It's an interesting combo, and I feel like if we saw some of this blue or even the cream colour coming through in details, maybe on the collar, maybe on the cuffs, I think you'd have a potential for a sneaky good shirt. As is, just feels a bit uninspiring, and especially because I think this isn't bespoke to the team as well, the pattern. I might be wrong, but I think it's a catalogue pattern. The sponsor doesn't really help this one at all either. So this one is probably largely for the crest. Oh, Tucson. Thank you, John Carl. I was going to say, when I said Tucson, it didn't sound right at all. Tucson sounds much better. Appreciate the guys. Do throw in pronunciation guides. Always happy to be educated on the right way to say a team's name. So Tucson, I think largely on the strength of the crest alone, which I think is really interesting. And even though I kind of wanted a tertiary colour there, Tyler said reminds me of the Barca 2013 shirt. That's a nice comparison, Tyler. Yeah, if it's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, I hear you. I think there is that. Um, you know, as a base colorway, it's not bad. This kind of maroon shade and black. Honestly, that I think that lands better than something like just a red. It feels very Arizona. Again, my relatively limited knowledge, but I do have a kind of passive interest in American sports generally. That feels like an Arizona kind of color for one of their many teams. I mean, there's a whole state, so there's all sorts of teams there, but you know what I mean. So yeah, it's a kind of tier. There's some unrealized potential, I would say, with that one. Charleston Battery. Now, Charleston Battery, we looked at their home kit. It was one I really didn't like, largely because of the sizing and placement of the crest and manufacture. And it's happened again. I do not understand why they are so wide. And also it just looks a bit small. This actually is such a shame because I think this shirt, I mean, look at it. It looks silly how wide and small they are. There's no reason it can't be a little bit bigger, either bigger or just a bit more in the middle. It's such an interesting design. You've got, these kind of cut out chevrons, which I think actually kind of match the pattern quite nicely. And this kind of simplified it's almost like a kind of mountain look. It has so much potential and there's some good shots here, but it's really, I mean, I prefer this. I much prefer this to the home. And honestly, with a better approach to the crest and manufacturer logo, I think this one is in the flames tier. Even with the cuffs and collars and the relatively low quality of some of these humble US shirts stops it from being very, very top tier. But honestly, just for the crest alone, I'm struggling to. I mean, this will go in the camel tier, and it's a kind of regrettable entry into the camel tier. I really do think this could be so much better. But guys, why have they done this? It just looks silly. It just looks too small. It looks way too far apart. There's a gaping hole in the middle there. You could fit, a few different details or a couple of sponsors even there, and it would still look wide. Such a shame. It does actually ruin a shirt, I think, when you've got it. Just distracts. And the Volvo sponsor is fine, but even that looks quite spaced out. But that's their logo. Yeah, such a shame. I mean, looking at it again, it is interesting seeing these kind of cut-out chevrons. I'm not sure if I actually like that more than I would like the solid orange, to be honest. But yeah, regardless. And Brock saying, why do they keep doing that? Is that Hummel or club decision? This, honestly, I don't know, Brock. This very much feels like just, well, more of a manufacturing-driven decision, I would say. And I don't want to point the blame at Hummel, but I can't imagine that a club would consciously decide to do that. And it feels like there's something going on with the manufacturing there. I mean, John Carl said, so we need to lose the circle and just use the guns. I think that would be quite good. I don't mind the overall logo. If it was bigger, I think it would look better. But yeah, something like an away shirt, it'd be quite nice to see an alternate version, almost like Arsenal when they do the gun, the cannon version of the crest. But yeah, such a shame. It's a third shirt that could be talked about as one of the more collectible shirts in the US. I think that is the kind of direction you could go down. Well, it would be in those conversations, were it not for the really, really sloppy crest there. The placement, guys, the placement of the crest. Oof, hurts so much. Right, we continue. Charlotte Independence. This one is, I mean, immediately, that's one of the least, it's possibly the most boring Adidas template. It's so boring, and even the colour, that looks so generic. The sponsor isn't, it's just completely middle of the road, if not a bit naff. The crest is fine, but that is just the most, I'm just happily put that quite low in the Ice Cube tier. What a completely forgettable shirt. You could show me that and, maybe that's like a Cardiff City shirt or any number of Adidas Adidas teams. And even just the shade of blue is the most generic looking shirt we've possibly even seen this entire series. So I'm happy to put that very low down. Now, the funny thing is, even though this is another template, I do much prefer this. Yes, it has been used quite a lot. And the pattern, I mean, you can look at any number of the women's international kits which were released recently from Adidas. A number of the teams had this template. So I prefer this to the home, but it's, and I think, I do actually like this kind of slightly grey colour. The crest sits a lot better on this one. I mean, there's some pretty naff, like both visually, well, just the size, colour, aesthetic of the sponsor logos don't look good, and they don't look any better on the away. I do prefer the away though, and it's still in the Ice Cube tier, but it's close to the counter tier despite being a template, because I do actually kind of rate this overall base template as a pattern, but it is just a bit overused, unfortunately, like with most Adidas templates. So not great. Not great from Charlotte Independence. Not many teams have had both kits in the Ice Cube tier, but I do think this one is close to the. I'm happy to put it on the higher end of the Ice Cube tier because I do actually quite like the overall look of the template. Certainly much better than the home, but that's not saying too much, is it? We stay in the USL League One. Chattanooga Red Wolves, great name, but unfortunately not great shirts. I mean, the two-tone red, you know what, I don't mind this one. I think, having this pattern, it matches kind of nicely with a standout crest. That is a very novel crest, but I do quite like that from Chattanooga Red Wolves. This is definitely an Ice Cube, the away. The home, honestly, I actually think the choice to have this pattern, the line-based pattern, it matches, I think, quite well with that jagged crest, which is a fantastic crest. It's a lot of fun having that wolf's head there. And I actually don't mind. See, similar to this, guys, it's a subtle difference. But when you've got this compared to something like the Charlotte Independence shirt, which feels like I've seen, that pattern is very, very generic. This one, even though it is, I assume from the catalogue, a template pattern, it works a bit better for the overall theme. And I actually prefer, again, having the slightly darker red. That's something which this shirt could have benefited from, having, another shade of blue rather than just those lines. So this one I'm happy to actually sneak in to the candle tier. And I'm just looking here. Yeah, no, I'm happy to put that one just in there. Little things are keeping it from the Ice Cube tier. And, we don't want to spend too much or kind of give too much credit for the crest, because obviously in and of themselves, that's kind of largely out of a decision of a team's shirts year to year. But we should still, I think a good crest can still elevate even the most basic of shirts, and that's the example here where that is the case. I'll just stick it there. The away though is definitely in the Ice Cube tier. Yeah, sometimes pinstripes don't do anything, and that's an example here. Similarly, I mean, I think the colours, you see the crest here as well. The wolf here, which fits in better. I think just because the red isn't the same red on the wolf, it's less appealing. Brox has reminded you of Toronto FC. Yeah, it kind of has that vibe, certainly. Instantly, it would be interesting to see. Yeah, maybe actually some more kind of black or silver could be quite nice actually. But yeah, this one is an RSQ tier. Better than the combo we saw previously. What was the team there? I've forgotten already. Charlotte Independence. So Chattanooga certainly have one up on them. Their league rivals, but could be much better. I mean, if we're talking about, something like the Richmond Kickers shirt, I much preferred that sponsor, and I think there was a bit more to those shirt, or to the home shirt anyway. Just the colour was a lot better. And I don't like this one as much as the home, the away, so I'm happy to put this one down here. Yeah, alongside Nashville there. Guys, I think we'll do a few more and then we'll call it a day. But thanks for sticking with me. It's not too late to subscribe. If you are not subscribing, you should definitely do so. And if you've got any questions as we wrap up, do chuck them in the chat. We go to Central Coast Mariners. Now, the brand Paladin, one which have been kind of on my radar. They've done some work with Wellington Phoenix, team in New Zealand. And they're also working with Central Coast Mariners over in Australia. And this one is dubbed a pink charity jersey. It looks like, from what I can gather, reading the press release for the first time, there is some sort of round of the season where everyone wears a pink shirt. Now, the pattern of this one, it's an interesting one. This aesthetic, it almost looks like a piano. Of course, if you rotated that one round, it has that kind of almost like the Condivo 18 template, which was a pattern that Adidas utilised on a number of kits. Almost to the point, well, it was to the point of saturation. So it's an interesting look, and it does really look like a piano to me. And I don't know. I think that association, it's hard to remove the Condivo. It's kind of the ghost of Condivo is haunting me there. I think that actually is hurting it in my estimations. I think as well, I don't know if it's just me, but on these promo shots, it really looks like they've just photoshopped that band in there. It looks kind of a bit blurry around the edge. Yeah, it's a bit weird, but in every picture, it doesn't look quite right. I think it's because you can see the pattern underneath. Honestly, I don't like that. And I don't know if that is going to be the case with the actual shirt. But you see here, it really does feel like they've just almost like spray painted it on top. So, I think this one, the pink is vibrant. It's certainly memorable. And I think, I do typically like these kind of horizontal elements, but it's just lacking a bit of finesse. And I think for me, it's the aesthetics of the pattern and also the execution of that band. Seeing it just feels a bit, I don't know, I'd want to see more pictures of this one, but I'm going to put this in the Ice Cube tier. Maybe if the pattern continued on the sleeves, that could be kind of interesting. But yeah, there's just a lot of things which are confusing me about this one. And given that it's the pink round, I'd be interested to see more pink shirts from out of Australia, out of the A League. Very interesting one. Shirt I've not seen before. I just honestly, guys, the more I see that, it really looks like someone has just it doesn't look. It's like they've forgotten to increase the opacity of that layer there. Very unusual. Newcastle. This is interesting. I don't remember. Hang on. What's going on there? No, this is of course an April Fool's shirt, and I had to. The fact I even started that sentence is unfortunate. I'll pretend that I knew that all along. Very good though. Channel 4 logo. Of course, the home shirt has more than a hint of a 4 on the front. So that was close. We're going to move on though to Tormentor FC. Oh dear. Guys, I do appreciate you sticking around. There's only a few of us here at the moment. It's been a relatively quiet afternoon stream, but thank you for sticking with me nonetheless. Now this Adidas template is a lot of fun, utilised by a number of teams. I think probably FC Copenhagen were one of the first ones to really make use of it. And this as a colour combo as well. Wow, I mean, the blues and the pinks, there's a lot. And yeah, John Carl, that was an LA performance. I mean, the funny thing is, I actually think this would have potential as a look, but not as a home shirt. But anyway, we'll move on. Yeah, so looking at this team, I mean, the crest, a bit like the Chattanooga shirt, the crest is a standout with the animal element. And the fact I like on this template that the pattern goes all the way on the back, and that's good. And it is actually, I mean, just from a colour perspective, I think it's really smart. That shade, that kind of salmony pink, I think is really nice. So I'm happy to put this one. In the Flames tier. And Joe Gus saying participation, quality, not quantity. Exactly, my friend. Exactly. Honestly, these afternoon streams tend to be nice and quiet. I don't mind that. It is all good. Yes, this one again. This Adidas template. Yes, it's been used by a few teams, but I'm not bored of it yet. It is a bit mad. It's kind of got that busyness, and I think this one, this template, this Adidas template, it lives and dies by the colorway, doesn't it? If it's a good colorway, I think there's something about it, and this one certainly is memorable. I quite like it. I think it's that, and I don't know. It's possible this is a stock colorway, but I don't think it is. It matches the crest very well anyway. I think that's fair. Box end looks like a training shirt. Yeah, that is fair, Book. I think it does look a bit like a training shirt. And it doesn't. This is the home shirt, but I like it. It's certainly collectible. This template again is going to be popular when it's been used. Should we finish on AC Milan now? Collaboration shirts are obviously on the rage across a number of teams. This one, now I don't really like this shirt, but I do appreciate that it's an idea which you've not seen much of at all. Many people joked, and I enjoyed all the comparisons to scratch cards and things like that. I don't really like the overall aesthetic, but it's creative, that's for sure. And the brand Neiman, I don't know how you say their name, but clearly they've had a bit of an influence. I think, yeah, honestly, I don't like the overall look. Whether it's the fact, people joked about it being like dandruff, it just feels, I don't know, the overall aesthetic, I don't think, it's not to my taste, and I don't think it's one of the better shirts I've seen, despite the fact that it is interesting, like the fact they've gone down this route, but I don't know, I think you could do, I think it just feels a bit naff, the way it's been achieved. I don't know. So I like it. It's certainly memorable, and there is a collectible element to it. But I've not been convinced. It was also released on April Fool's, which did make me laugh. Maybe it's things like the crest just kind of gets lost, and also I don't like. Puma have obviously been in the news for many reasons with their third shirts. I don't think this is one I'd go out my way to collect, and it's probably in the ice cube tier for me personally. But it exemplifies collaboration shirts. These kind of shirts which lean heavily on an aesthetic of the non-footballing party, if we can put it that way. I don't think this is the worst example, but it's not to my taste. John Carson looks like a murder scene. It's really hard to kind of. It's not a look I've seen much of at all, and for that, it's certainly I think this is the kind of thing, right, where you've got a collaboration shirt, you might as well do something different. And honestly, I think it's more just not to my taste from an aesthetic point of view. But that's, if we Googled, if we just Google name and let's have a look. Because I think this is the kind of thing where, so big on the kind of gradients. You can see here some of the clothing. Honestly, I'm not a fashion guy. There's not much about this which I'd say, I quite like that. And actually, to be honest, so for example, this jacket or this jacket, I actually think that has some potential there. Kind of has this kind of smoky aesthetic. I don't mind it. And I just think when you look at this, when you look at this, it just feels. I think they could have done something better. Maybe there needs more depth in the white section. I don't know, but consider the ask you to, and that will do it. But yeah, guys, we'll end on the AC Milan shirt there. Thank you though for tuning in to the Hot Wall. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new, and also as we finish, I'll just flash up my Patreon scene. You can see here the names of my patrons. Thank you to each and every one of you who support me on Patreon. If you'd like to support me, you get a range of benefits. The new Phil's Corner shirt is coming out very soon. I'll be showing pictures, maybe even tomorrow, of that one. It's looking really nice. And one of the new Nike templates. But yeah, there's loads of other benefits. Details are in the description. But that'll do it. So as I say, thank you for those who've tuned in, who've asked questions, who've watched along. All being well, we'll be back on Tuesday evening for the eBay stream, and then the later Hot Wall stream on the Thursday. And John Carl saying, time to right, I just finished my beer. You know what's funny, John Carl? I was just thinking, I haven't actually yawned this stream. Or maybe I did and I forgot. That might be a Phil's Corner first. A 2-hour stream and I didn't yawn once. Maybe my holiday did me good after all. But guys, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. It has been a bit quieter, but it's still been enjoyable nonetheless. And yeah, looking forward to chatting with you all more. Until next time then, I will see you soon. Enjoy whatever the rest of your week has in store. And yeah, we'll speak more very soon. Take care, guys. All the best.